The Bengals schedule for the 2025 season was released last week. How many games will they win? It's schedule game time on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. Let's dive in right now to the schedule game. What's the schedule game? I make my way too early May picks for the 2025 NFL season, and the Bengals season starts in Cleveland, in the land. Look, this is going to be a tough game. It's on the road. It's against a Browns team that is going to get after Joe Burrow. We've seen it time and time and time again. They also have good corners. At the same time, I think the Bengals get it done. They swept the Browns last year. There's a bunch of question marks at quarterback for the Browns. I actually think Shedeur Sanders is the route they should go at quarterback. I don't think they do that week one. I think the Bengals get it done in Cleveland. It'll be a close game. It'll be ugly. The Bengals find a way to win. Then they come back to Cincinnati, and they play a Jaguars team that I think is going to be pretty good. I do. I'm a believer in Trevor Lawrence. I'll buy his stock that is going down and is tanking. I think you have a new offensive-minded coach in Liam Cohen. I love the addition of Travis Hunter. I think they're going to be really interesting. I still think this is a game the Bengals should win and will win. They get off to a 2-0 start, and it's like, all right, here we go. The Bengals, they get off to a good start until they go to Minnesota. I think Minnesota's sneaky good. I do. I think people are going to overlook them because of the quarterback and the uncertainty there. I think that they're just going to be a solid team. They're really solid. They have explosive weapons and Addison and Jefferson and Hawkins. I mean, all these dudes on offense. And so I think that they'll be able to produce enough there. And then their defense is really good. I think Minnesota beats the Bengals and Cincinnati falls to 2-1. And then Monday Night Football on the road in Denver. This is one of those Joe Burrow games. I think Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, I think they go off in Denver and they win this game to get to 3-1. Joe, Jamar, T, just the offense shines bright under the Monday night lights, and they handle business there to get to 3-1 on the year. And then they're going to play a Detroit Lions team that I think is really interesting. I mean, they're interesting because of how good they were last year. They obviously came up short. Aiden Hutchinson had that season-ending injury. Their pass rush wasn't the same. A homecoming of sorts for DJ Reader, so I think that'll be quite interesting and maybe a storyline to follow there. Overall, though, I look at this game, and I think that this is going to be such a big test for Al Golden. And can you make Jared Goff beat you and make him make a few mistakes? Because you have to take away the Lions' run game and Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. So that's making Jared Goff beat you. And then you have to make him make mistakes. And so that's twofold there. I think the Lions find a way to squeak out a win over the Bengals. Really close. Wouldn't shock me if it went the other way. But I think it'll be a close loss for the Cincinnati Bengals. They fall to 3-2 on the season. And then they go to Lambeau. And that's what's so interesting about this schedule and kind of my predictions early on is I think they're going to start 2-0 and then they're going to kind of go back and forth. I think they go to Lambeau and win. They're certainly capable of doing that. So they end up splitting their back-to-back games with the NFC North. They go on the road. They find a way to beat Green Bay and get to 4-2 on the season. And then they have 3 games where they can really make their hay before the bye. Pittsburgh week 7, Jets week 8, and the Bears week 9. And I think they go 2-1 minimum during this stretch. And so at 4-2, I think minimum they get to 6-3. But I think they win all 3 of these games. I think they go into the bye on a real high that they haven't really done in the Zach Taylor era. They handle business on a short week after beating the Packers by beating the Steelers, even with Aaron Rodgers, which I mentioned. I think that could happen. And then the Jets come to town. I think they handle business there. And then the Bears, they're going to be really intriguing. I like a lot of their pieces. I like what they've done at running back. I like what they've done with Colston Loveland. I like all the weapons they have around Caleb Williams. I think the Bengals get it done. And so 7-2 at the bye, it would be a really ideal scenario. And I do think that the Bengals find a way to get off to a wildly good start, especially when you look at the Joe Burrow / Zach Taylor era. The best start, they started 5-2 in their Super Bowl year, and then they went into the bye 5-4. I think it's the opposite here. They start 5-2, and then they get 2 more wins to go into the bye 7-2. Coming out of the bye, they play the Steelers. I think that this is one of those games on the road. Could certainly see a loss here. It's tough to play the Steelers. Wouldn't be shocked at all if you come out of the bye, you kind of lose a little bit of that momentum that you had, and you lose. You fall to 7-3 on the year. Then you come home and you play the Patriots. I think they will beat the Patriots, kind of avenge last year. So they're 8-3 on the year. And so 8-3 going into the toughest stretch of the season, weeks 13 through 15 at Baltimore on a short week, Thanksgiving night, at Buffalo, and then Baltimore again. I think they go to Baltimore and win that game. They've gotten close. They were really close last year. I think there's going to be a lot of hype, a lot of buildup. They would have stubbed their toe a few weeks prior in Pittsburgh. They go to Baltimore. They win that game. Then, so they get to 9-3. Then they go to Buffalo, and they have that mini bye. And I think a lot of people will be on the Bengals and say, man, the Bengals are going to win this game. They're going to keep cruising through Buffalo. I think it's the other way. I think the Bills get them this time. At least in the regular season, the Bengals fall to 9-4. They go to Buffalo and they lose on December 7th. And then they come back, they come home, they play Baltimore, and they sweep Baltimore. And I think a lot of people are going to be like, what, are you serious? No, I think they certainly can. 10-4 going into this final 3-week stretch. And this is where it gets interesting for me, because I think 10-4, you're like, all right, well, this is a really, really heck of a start, and you're probably battling for the 1 seed, and you're at Miami, you play the Cardinals, you play the Browns. And what's interesting for me, and I think a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, you're going to, there's no way you're going to sweep Baltimore. And the reason I have them sweeping Baltimore is because weird stuff happens every season. And this year I'm trying to be a bit different with that. Because logically you'd say, all right, well, they split with Baltimore, they split with the Steelers, and then they go to Miami and they win. Oh, I don't have that. And I have them losing to the Dolphins. And that's one I think a lot of people have as a W, but I'll put that down as a loss. So now they're 10-5 with 2 games to go. They come home, they play the Cardinals, they get to 11-5, likely clinch a playoff berth with that win over Arizona. And then they play the Browns as well. I'll have them sweeping the Browns for a second straight year. 12-5 is my initial prediction. And there are a lot of potential games where it's like, well, maybe this, maybe that. Like the Vikings game, you could see them winning that game, but I have it as a loss. Lions as well. I think you could go either way there, but getting off to a hot start gives you some cushion if you do stub your toe on the Steelers that second time around, or if you do go to Baltimore and lose, even though I have them winning. So that would be important. And I think that's the thing that when I look at the schedule that they need to do, make your hay early, because you're going to stub your toe at some point. Like if they go into the bye 7-2 and then they split their first 2, so they're 8-3, well, then that stretch of at Baltimore, at Buffalo, and then home for the Ravens, let's say you just lose all 3. You're still 8-6. Like the world isn't ending if you're 8-6. And so that's where I'm at, is it's like, yeah, make your hay early, because then if something happens, if there's an injury, if someone gets nicked up, if you don't feel like your back is completely against the wall if you lose a couple of games. And that should be the theme here early on. And so you start 2-0. Okay, well, you can lose 2 of 3 and it doesn't feel like the world is caving in, right? If you lose 2 of 3 to start the year and you're 1-2, it's just going to feel a little different. And so that's where Zach Taylor, Joe Burrow, they talk about playing from ahead all the time. I think the Bengals can play from ahead this season. And we'll see if they do that. But if they do, and look, this schedule game is, and I'm not going to get into all the particulars, it's banking on them making a few moves here, making a few people happy, Trey Hendrickson, and making sure he's on the roster, maximizing what they can do with these young guys. Like, it's banking on some things like that. But I find it hard to imagine another season where Joe Burrow, and obviously it's a May pick, where Joe Burrow's on the outside looking in of the playoffs. I just do. And so we'll see if that happens. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the game. That's why I had kind of the up and downs in a different way. I think he's going to rise up and play huge against some of these awesome teams and beat Lamar and go on the road and win some of these games, and then drop some that we've seen him win before. The road game against Buffalo. I think if they beat the Ravens in Baltimore on Thanksgiving night, everyone will pick them against Buffalo. And then Buffalo stuns them. And then it kind of goes back and forth. So I that's the theme. I hope you noticed the theme there when I played the schedule game. So we'll see. It's just the initial one. Now that it hasn't been a week, but we've had 5+ days now of being able to digest the schedule, look at it. 12-5. I think everybody would certainly take that. That would win the division, no doubt about it. And you'd be in contention for one of the top playoff spots in the AFC. For more, make sure you check out BengalsTalk.com. For Andrew Fox Miller, I'm James Rapien. Thank you so much for watching and listening to Cincinnati Bengals Talk.